Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to StrangeCast, Player One vs. Life is Strange podcast. I am one of your hosts, Adnan. My co-host Adam is here. Adam, you here?
I'm here. I have not read Wavelengths or Heat Waves by the time this comes out because it's not coming out.
It is not coming out. I need to turn that notifications off.
Oh, no.
So, yes, it's not coming out, surprisingly, as we've been told by a comment, which we actually looked up and we're like, wait a minute, the date has changed. And it's like, what? It's like there's no actual news being broken about it. It's like, what happened there?
Yeah, because he showed me the comment and I was like, what are you talking about? And then we just Googled it. I don't see any news pieces. I just see on Amazon, Life is Strange Heat Waves is now coming out July 30th. And I'm like, when did that pop? Like, I feel like we just saw it. It was April 9th.
I'm pretty sure it was April 9th from the last episode. It must have been. I'm pretty sure it must have been. That is a bit bizarre because April 9th is my birthday as well. Another year older, another year to the state pension, hopefully. Before they cancel it eventually when I get my next 30 years. But yeah, getting older. But yes, thank you for joining us in this episode. We have a lot to talk about, and obviously there are timestamps if you just do want to jump into our main topic, which I imagine will be very chunky, as it's going to be. But before we start as well, if you are new here, as always, please do consider dropping subscribe on the channel, turn notifications, like the video, and share with your friends. Helps you support this channel more than anything else. The StrangeCast is available on all your podcast services, so it's available on Spotify with the video version, and all of the platforms. We have 108 followers now on Spotify. So thank you so much for that. It's very much appreciated. And obviously as well, our new podcast launched last month, which is the Lost Records Journal. So do go and check that out. That is now available on all podcast services. So you can go and check us out on there. And thank you to the person that rated us 5 stars on Spotify. We've got 1 rating on there, and we've also got 7 followers already on Spotify. So that's great to see. So thank you so much for that. Just one more thing as well. We have Google Podcasts on both, but Google Podcasts will be ending as of next month.
No. I love Google Podcasts.
Well, you say
my
that,
favorite place.
You say that, but StrangeCast has 24 subscribers from Google Podcast, which I only learned when I was putting Lost Records Journal on Google Podcast. So I was like, oh, actually, we have subscribers. Yeah. Get people from Google Podcast, which is surprising.
Wow.
That's wild. But yes, that'll be another one that'll hit the dust like Stitcher. But yeah, just to give you
Stitcher. I do miss Stitcher. Ugh.
Stitcher was the real G.
It was. And Radio Public.
And Radio Public. We're still on Radio Public. It's a good one for us.
No, it's shut down.
Is it?
I got an email saying that they're shutting down at least pretty soon anyway.
Oh god damn it.
Because I used to have a website through Radio Public, and then I just stopped having a website because I was like, I don't really need this anymore. And then they sent me an email like, oh, we're just shutting down. Radio Public's no more. Just letting you know, we're shutting down your website. I'm like, okay. Yeah, Radio Public is shutting down, which I liked Radio Public. It was a good one. Yeah.
It was solid. No. So we're on there. So do check us out on that for Lost Records Journal. So do keep up to date with that. And by the way, just give me a bit of patience as well, because I'm a little bit unwell, horribly unwell this morning, but we have to go on because the show continues. So we have a couple of news pieces, obviously, and then our main topic, which is a big news piece, and we'll be talking a lot about that. I'll be giving you some insight into the channel as well, because it'll include my own inside sources and information, which I've been very hush-hush about, but I'll be very open about, because I've also got receipts for that, so I don't need to worry about legal ramifications or anything. Speaking of which, Adam, should we kick things off with our first piece of news?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an interesting piece. This might also relate to our main topic in the sense of diversifying your portfolio and stuff, but this is from Don't Nod, so going to Games Industry Biz. So it's Don't Nod restructures around free games. So it says Don't Nod announced a new studio organization structured around its 3 genres of predilection.
Okay, I'm trying to follow where you are. Oh,
first sentence. We're waiting about the first sentence. Yeah.
Announced studio organization in 3 genres of predilection. Am I stupid? Predilection.
I'm stupid. I've never even heard of that word.
I've never heard of that word.
Live and learn.
I am well read, and I've never heard of that word. Okay, so predilection is a noun, a preference or special liking for something, a bias in favor of something.
Why don't you just use preference?
I don't know. I guess because
journalism rules 101, whenever you get taught about, and I've been taught about as well, use very simple words for any person, because we shouldn't be sitting here thinking about this. We might also be very stupid. We will be very stupid.
I'm American. I'm especially stupid.
Yeah. Well, well,
well,
yeah.
we do deep fried peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, so
Continuing, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna engage that. Okay, so we live and learn. So RPG, narrative adventure, and an action adventure are the genres the company's focusing on. So the company will now be organized in 3 branches named after these genres, with the aim to emphasize its expertise in these titles and reflect its role as both a developer and publisher. Don't know how to clarify to games industry biz that this restructure does not mean redundancies, with spokesman saying, and I quote, there were no layoffs at Don't Nod following this reorganization. In 2023, we witnessed an exceptional year of content featuring a multitude of high-quality games encompassing both small and large-scale innovative titles. Simultaneously, it proved to be a challenging period for the games for the industry at large, marked by numerous layoffs and the unfortunate loss for thousands of individuals, even in the cases where critical success was achieved. Fortunately, we haven't had any layoffs. As we reflect on our year, our aim is to maintain our integrity and resilience in the face of industry challenges. We aspire to continue producing thought-provoking and daring games, contributing positively to the gaming landscape for years to come. End quote. So about the restructure, Don't Nod CEO Oscar Gilbert said it reflected the company's desire to deepen its expertise in these genres with a focus on quote-unquote strategic business growth, end quote, aiming at solidifying its quote-unquote position as a market leader, end quote. Apologies, my nose running like non-stop there. He added, and I quote, this new organization reflects our dedication to deliver high-quality games across successful gaming genres. The expertise cultivated within these branches allows us to develop increasingly specialized in-house tools and ultimately cost optimization in productions by improving our productivity and internal capabilities. We aim to deliver memorable and unique gaming experiences that resonate with players worldwide, end quote. Don't Nod moved into third-party publishing 2 years ago, fully moved to self-publish its games in 2020, etc., etc. They've mentioned other things in here, and also obviously the SJTV allegations, which we covered previously. Not much more to add on to that, but the first piece of news, yes. So Don't Nod is giving us priority. This makes sense as well, because obviously it seems like the Montreal studio is like your narrative focus on there. And then you also have a bit of a narrative focus in the French studio, because we've had like stuff like Harmony, we had stuff like Jusant as well, and then obviously you have like the RPG style as well, again from the French studio, which we had with Banishers, which recently came out as well. So it seems like there's very clear direction of where Don't Nod thinks and knows where its strengths are.
Yes, they are stretching themselves out, but also focusing on how far they can stretch is what I'm reading from this. They want to expand, but they're also saying that like we have limits in what we can do. Like we're not going to make a first-person shooter, you know. But we do know that like narratives can stretch out to vast amounts of different genres, and you know this is like the beginning of something huge. So Don't Nod might be the next EA. Isn't that exciting? Or the next Ubisoft. Isn't that nice?
I'm refraining from comments here. I agree with you though, because it's like even their self-published games and the publishing games that they've done from third-party studios, like Gerda is a narrative game, heavily narrative game. You have like Koira that's coming out from them, that's going to be a future game from them. Again, like a narrative adventure game, if anything. And yeah, it just seems like the studio is kind of like diversifying its portfolio, which it needs to, and it's why it's like shifted so much away from just being the Life is Strange studio, which we'll come on to a bit later as well, Deck 9, about when we talk about it. But it's like, it's a strategic focus as well. It's like, for them, they still aren't generating a lot of money. So this is the other thing, because I didn't include the news piece in here, but it's time to talk about this. Has kind of come out with their earnings and stuff. They like had a very good, strong 2023. But for example, in the report I read last night, Adam, they said that Harmony didn't sell as well as they expected. And they then also kind of attributed marketing climate, saying that if it wasn't as bad for the marketing climate, the game might have sold a bit. Yeah, I don't do that. It's very
hard
niche.
Disagree.
Yeah,
it's
very
so
niche.
It's a graphic novel. Or no, sorry,
visual novel.
Visual novel, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a visual novel. That market is so niche, dude. Like it's got its core. Even me, it's like I really do try to be into visual novels.
Yeah.
This was the only one where I actually this and One Night Stand that I
That's by
actually
good
like.
old Lucy Blundell.
Yeah, that one was really good. There's a good handful of visual novels, but they're a tough sell. Like,
Yeah.
you could be in the best market window, you could have the best marketing, but the fact you say that it's a lot of reading,
Yeah.
I feel like. Sorry, am I boring you? Like, what's up?
Yeah. I'm trying to just dig up that release that I read to back up what we were talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't bore me.
I'm just checking my. You're sending me. What? You're sending me another 50 TikToks?
Hey, I sent you my message. If I get emotional when you don't react to stuff. Oh, speaking of which, as well, TikToks. Luke actually reacted to one of my TikToks. I was so happy. Yeah,
nice.
I was very happy with that.
Well,
Initial snub on the first one, but I was like, we'll allow it now. I'm forgiven. Things are forgiven here.
But like I was saying, it's like you could have the best environment ever for your marketing, but at the same time, it's a visual novel. It's like for a gamer, for me to sell to you, Adnan,
Yes.
Harmony. You're a Donut fan, but if I told you it's a game, but you have to read a lot, and it's a lot of just dialogue. It's just there's no gameplay. It's just pressing a button and dialogue. Would you like to play this game?
I want to sleep, man. Leave me alone, man. I'm not even that big of a Donut fan. People think that I'm like. I think I've played very few Donut games compared to you.
Yeah.
I keep an eye on things, and like I'm very watchful from a observer perspective. But you're right though. What you're saying, it's a very niche like audience, if anything. And you said as well with like One Night Stand, it's a great hit in that sphere. And people have always said like great things about it, but you have to be interested in like One Night Stand.
In visual novels, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, it's a tough sell. Even Gerda is kind of like a tough sell because it is an alternate historical, like it's historical gameplay. It's very narrative. It's a tough sell. It really is, unfortunately. But
by the way, before we continue, I've got the news here quickly just to pull it up from what we were talking about. And by the way, follow Lucy on Twitter as well. She's very good Simpsons memes. So this was on the about the press release because they reported earnings and stuff, etc. They report despite increased revenues, Donut noted that 2023 was a challenging year due to oversaturation of the market, with its games having to compete with major releases. As a result, Banishers Goes to New Eden was delayed to 2024. There's the reason why it's delayed. And Harmony, The Fall of Riviera. Harmony. Just Harmony.
Reverie.
But we're going to call it just Harmony here because I don't want to keep sounding stupid. Harmony generated less revenue than it potentially could have.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I agree with that. Like, there's an oversaturation of the market, had to compete with major releases, then Harmony generated less revenue because of it. Harmony was great for what it was. But again, it's like, but it's in the sense of what like the market's at. You can't really.
It could have been on Game Pass and still wouldn't have like enough players because again, it's a visual novel. It's just it's the thing it is. Like even for my kind of music, the music that I put out, like I'm not going on the radio with my kind of music. It's just like I understand where my place is.
Exactly.
It's just kind of like it's niche. It's just niche. That's their problem. But maybe they had, who knows? Maybe they did have expectations that a visual novel would sell, and they just didn't meet their We don't know what those expectations are.
Yeah.
But if they were too high for a visual novel, it's just like that's your problem, dog.
Donut's money in generation comes from Life is Strange and Vampire royalties at the minute. Like that's like the main and you can see why they focus on those two genres. One's an action RPG game, one's an action adventure / narrative game more so. So it's like that's where you basically have the kind of same juxtaposition with like Lost Records and Ghost to Banishers, Ghost to New Eden.
Yes.
So it's like you need to like have a good balance with that. And it says it in their press release. I'm looking at the earnings and stuff. Like Donut, as I said, isn't as lucrative as you expect, and some of this covers into our next piece of news as it is. But like in the piece I'm looking at Game World Observer, they put as a result it will organize its branches into three branches, each focused on specific genres. So action RPG games like Vampire and Banishers Ghost of New Eden, action adventures games like Remember Me and the upcoming Lost Records Bloom and Rage, narrative adventure games like Life is Strange. Within each branch, Don't will function as both developer and publisher, making its own games and work within third-party studios. With this move, the company plans to quote-unquote consolidate its expertise in the development of AA games, end quote. It's pretty much just establishing itself as a AA studio, which I have always felt it has been as well. It's never really been AAA, or never wanted to be AAA. So no, interesting piece nonetheless, and I'm kind of like happy that Don't Know is going this direction, because you need to evolve as a studio. You can't just be the Life is Strange studio forever. We've seen this time and time again with like Telltale, for example. If they're just stuck with one game and one genre, Life is like just a narrative adventure one, it would make nowhere near as much money as it needs. They have 350 employees. I don't know. That's based in like Canada and also in France. So it's like, you know, for them not to go through job cuts and like lay people off and stuff, they're gonna have to like really like oil the machine, aren't they? Get projects going. Speaking of which, should we go into our next piece of news?
Absolutely.
Unless you have anything else to add, by the way. I should have said that.
Play Harmony if you like visual novels. It's actually very good.
Indeed. Play Harmony. Okay, let's go into our next piece of news.
Yes.
Right, so we're on IGN. This is related to its last one, which is Tell Me Why Studio Don't Nod. It says 7 games are in the works. 4 of them have been announced, so we don't know about 3. Interesting. So, Don't Nod currently has 7 games in the works, 4 of which are unannounced. The studio behind Tell Me Why, Vampire, and the original Life is Strange announced today. By the way, as well, just let me say something, Adam. One thing that really irked me in the main piece of news that we're going to talk about, which is obviously the Deck 9 stuff, they spell Don't Nod with 1 word, and then in this one, on the IGN piece, they've got Don't Nod as 2 words in the actual style it is now. It's like, come on, IGN, man. Like, come on. You rate that, get that investigative piece out there, and you like, don't, stylistically, man, come on. Anyway, the projects include Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which was announced during the Game Awards 2023, and purports to be the start of a connected universe. And by the way, which we have a podcast for, just to let you know. 5 of the projects are being developed internally, with the 2 remaining, with 2 being handled by external studios, Tolima and Tiny Ball Studios, as we know. Tolima is developing Koira, a musical hand-drawn adventure that will be published by Don't Nod. We don't actually know what Tiny Ball is making, are we? We just know that they made that agreement.
That's true.
About that.
Yeah, we don't know.
Interesting. So Don't Nod plans are part of a larger reorganization announced today that will focus what it calls 3 distinct internal branches of expertise: RPG, narrative adventure, and action adventures we talked about. According to Don't Nod, while each branch will have its own focus, the studio will still encourage collaboration and cross-pollination of ideas. I'm not even reading the quote-unquote pass. Right, we know Don't Nod has a studio in Paris and Montreal. Montreal is working on Lost Records Bloom and Rage. Oscar Gilbert here again, for the CEO of Don't Nod, who said in an interview to IGN, we have an RPG. Don't Know executive Sophie Philippe mentioned it with Vampire and Banishers, with a studio in Montreal, which is also very important for us with the Life is Strange team. We also have another branch in Paris, which is the action adventure branch, which when people will also be able to continue to increase their know-how and how and do better and better games. Adam, have I read that entire quote wrong? What the fuck am I reading here?
I don't know. Okay.
Right. Hang on. Let me read this. We have action RPG. I'm sorry, I'm like really we have action RPG. Don't Know executive Sophie Philippe mentioned it with Vampire and Banishers. We have the studio in Montreal, which is also very important for us with the Life is Strange team. And we also have another branch in Paris, which is the action adventure branch, which when people will also be able to continue to increase their know-how and do better games from game to game, end quote. That was a mouthful.
Yeah,
very weirdly phrased. Very weird. Anyway, Philippe added, and I quote, we feel also in a response to what's happening in the industry, we need to focus on the games that are more AA or a bit above that, not necessarily going into AAA landscape. Not a quadruple A, by the way, just before I continue, like Ubisoft. So it's a bit easier also for us to really focus our efforts and our different talents to hopefully avoid being in a situation where we have to make tough decisions. So focusing and building is our main focus right now, end quote. Don't Nod's most recent game is Banishers Ghost New Region, which we said, okay, that's Don't Nod's thing. Oh, actually, here's a piece as well. Don't Nod will try and expand its ambitions with Lost Records, which will see to build a universe through a series of standalone games that will drive a larger narrative. Asked whether Lost Records will be similar to Supermassive's Dark Pictures anthology, Philippe said they will be. but that Don't Nod wants to quote unquote connect them a bit more than that, end quote. I didn't even see that part at first.
So we're going to be playing games based on each of the 4 characters, is what I'm hearing.
Maybe. Well, or maybe it's just standalones. Maybe it's like the Life is Strange 1 and 2 vibe. Just
maybe we will see Pompidou in one of them.
Maybe. I'd be very surprised if there's not a dog in the game.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a cat. Maybe I don't know why they don't put a cat in the game more often.
Because
I feel like they should put a
dogs
cat
are
in there.
better. It's statistically better. Dogs.
No, they're not. Yeah, but the guy, one of the guys who's making it has a lot of cats. Like, you know, it's like come on.
I suppose, but like, you know, dogs, dude. Like, you don't say like, yo, what's up, dog? You say what's up, dog. You don't say what's up, cat. You say dog.
I don't know. I would say what's up, cat.
That's okay.
Okay, picking back up. I don't know where I finished off before. We have a bit of tech issues, and I told you a lot of fun on this podcast.
I hate Windows 11. I hate Windows 11 so much. That's
why you need to believe in my boy Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
rest in peace. I'm on my Mac. Anyway, let's continue with this. I think what I was saying was I wasn't surprised by the AA, AAA landscape because we've spoken about that before on the podcast, and we've spoken about like how Don't Nod stays within its realms. It's like it's a budgeted game. You know, Lost Records doesn't seem to be like a quadruple A game like Ubisoft pitching. It's working within a realms of parameter, which I'm all fine with. The Don't Nod piece at the end was interesting about Montreal's game. That was quite an interesting little bit of tidbit because we never had that information before. And that was from Sophie Philippe saying that as well. But then also as well, these games that are in development, because it's giving you a kind of like a bit of more direction in the pipeline. Because obviously we've seen things. So we've seen, since Twin Mirror, we've seen Harmony, Porter Plays game, which was Gerda, Banishers,
yes,
Jusant. So we've seen those 4 games, I believe. Have I missed anything, Adam?
I don't believe so. You said Harmony, yes?
Yes. Harmony, Banishers, Gerda, and Jusant. So that's 4. Got Lost Records coming out, so we know about that. And then they've said that basically they have, how many was it? 4 of which are unannounced.
Yeah, unannounced, which is wild to think about. Yeah.
So we have Lost Records coming out. We have Koira coming out. And then obviously we know Tiny Bull's working on something with them, which is unannounced.
Yes.
So there's other games were in development in the studio, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Aperture. Oh, God. Yeah. Let's not start that game. By the way, as well, you can swear on this episode, Adam, as well, because I'm not. This is going to be unfiltered for the next segment as well when we have our main segment. Because I'm not editing this in that sense. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be Aperture. So,
no.
No, but interesting nonetheless. I'm kind of happy with the direction that Don't Nod's going. Like, when Oscar Gilbert talks, I seem quite satisfied with this way the studio's going. It seems like the studio's learning a lot of lessons. Obviously, having had the issues with Remember Me, where it was like, and its previous financial situation, and it's like I'm just kind of a little bit hesitant after the Harmony thing, where it's like, yeah, the revenues didn't meet because of like this climate. I'm like, you're gonna have to accept that some games aren't gonna sell as well. So it's like even with Twin Mirror, it's like that game didn't sell well at all. It's like it's not a climate thing. It's just going to be something that doesn't appeal to people. So it's like I hope like obviously like Lost Records is a big success for you, so you can make like a lot of money from it, and it covers like the other expenses of games that don't make as much money. But it seems like at least the studio has a good clear head of direction, which we'll come on to head of direction of studios and stuff later on, as I've spoken about before. But yeah, what else did you make from it?
I think
there we go.
I want a game based in Philadelphia out of Don't Nod. It's just I'm being robbed at this point.
That's what the Montreal team's doing for you.
I don't think so. I think they hate me for some reason. I think I was saying Philadelphia, and they're like, "Oh, Adam's happy that it's gonna be based in Philadelphia. We don't want them to have happiness. Quick, everybody, quick! Change everything about the game. Change the setting."
I would prefer if they kept everything in Philadelphia and then they just crossed off the name and put like
crossed off the name and just said like Boston,
South Dakota instead of something.
South Dakota.
It's like, it looks exactly like Pennsylvania, but they've just done it to spite in the South Dakota.
Yeah, there's like
instead.
The Liberty Bell and everything. It's like, what the heck does this feel? No, it's South Dakota. I'm sorry.
South Dakota, man.
What are you talking about? You don't know anything, idiot. I'm like, wow. Okay, then. No, it's really exciting. I'm excited to see 4 games that are unannounced. That's really cool. Yeah, 4 games to look forward to. I have not tried out Banishers yet. It was on sale on Xbox, and your boy was stupid enough to not buy it.
Oh,
It was a rough week, and I forgot about it, and then it's not on sale anymore. So like that's awesome. Good job, Adam, is what I said.
Do you know what? One more thing as well, because I just want to bring this up with you. According to Don't Nod, while each branch will have its quote-unquote own focus, end quote, the studio will still encourage quote-unquote collaboration and cross-pollination of ideas, end quote. Isn't that like
cross-pollination of ideas? That's interesting wording.
But also, isn't that a bit like when we were talking about the SJTV's allegations as well, and they were talking about teams being moved around and like you being shifted on other projects and stuff? I'm like a little bit like, I'm a little bit like reserved about Don't Nod at the minute, just because of like what we read and we talked about. I'm reserved about a lot of video game studios as well. My faith has been shook on a lot of things. Not suggesting anything, but it's like, when allegations hit the news, it's a little bit like, we do need to kind of talk about them. But I'm kind of just intrigued by like what Don't Nod's going to be doing with that. It's like maybe it's just as simple as like obviously the narrative adventure studio part of the arm will like help the RPG side, obviously, because if it's like a Banishers game, you want someone to have a really good focus on story. Okay, so picking back up, I don't know where we finished there as well. It's been tech issues, apologies. It's just, you get to the life of that with podcasts. I don't think me and Adam take anything for granted anymore. The best part is when we do one episode and there's no edits. And I sit, genuinely, you guys do not see me when I'm just sitting there beaming, because I'm like, I just need to listen out for any like little snippets that I need to do. But otherwise, perfect. And in this one, I'm like I need to cut things already, but issues are issues as it is. Adam, anything add on to this as well? Because I think like maybe I'm banging on too much if I keep saying the same thing. I don't know if I actually got your input from this news, or if there's anything else you want to add before we move into the last pieces.
No, I think we touched on everything that we needed to. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. We'll move into the last two pieces of news, and we'll include another piece of news which we've alluded to with like Heatwave, just to kind of add on to the context of it. So this is just a kind of like an update that the fact that Jusant won Best Audio Award at the Pegasus Award. So congratulations to the Jusant team. Adam has played it. Adam said it was a very good game as well, and we spoke about the fact that they've been nominated for it. So congratulations on that. And the BAFTAs should be happening very soon. They might have actually happened by the time this episode.
I was going to say for Jusant, personally on my TV, I actually have so it's a 5.1 Dolby Atmos with a subwoofer speaker set on mine. And I will say this, even talking about Jusant's sound design, fantastic. So I actually want to say that like this is well deserved, that the sound design in Jusant is like bar none really excellent, and using my speaker system, so good, dude. So congrats on that.
Yeah, boom, there you go. Big endorsement. And yeah, best of luck to them at the BAFTAs as well, because Jusant is nominated at the BAFTAs. So best of luck to the team there, and hopefully they win as well, because we do like Don't Nod as well. And then also as well as from the Life is Strange Twitter account, which was a little update, which was that on the 27th of March, they tweeted saying Life is Strange Forget Me Not 2 is out now. So that next series of comics is out. We haven't picked it up yet. I'm waiting for the full volume to come out first when I pick it up in the summer. So we will talk to it at some point. I just want to flag it.
Yes.
Also including this
heat waves in the summer.
And yes, and that we had heat waves as well now. Thank you very much. So that's the other part, which was like me and Adam were completely oblivious to this, but one of the commenters said it, and we'll bring up the comment of the day later as well. But it's the fact that heat waves has been moved to the summer. So it's like we expected it to be out on my birthday. Again, my birthday is happening the 9th of April. But it was meant to come out then, not happening. So it's like it's just come out of nowhere, and there's no news reports either. So it's like when we saw the comment, we were like, hang on a minute, it's like this person like just phishing us or something. I was like, maybe they just like mixed it with Forget Me Not, but no, it has been pushed back with no words, nothing else from it. It's like, okay, interesting. So we'll leave it at that, because I don't think we're going to add loads more onto it, because obviously main topic time. And if you have jumped here as well from the beginning of the episode, I don't like that. You should be supporting the entire podcast. But if you are here at the very beginning, thank you very much. But no, obviously the main topic of the news, Adam. Yeah, I was thinking about main topics to put in this episode, but this one came out the
out of the air. Yeah, like I had no idea that the allegations were this strong against Deck 9. Yeah.
No. So yes, unless you've been living under a rock, especially by the time this episode comes out, Deck 9 has been rocked by allegations.
Yes.
My original idea was to read out this entire piece. Adam has suggested that is not a good idea, because we could be here for a while. Considering I was sniveling everywhere, my iPad will be filled with like drool at this point. So I think we said that we would run through the piece, but we pick out the main things we'll talk about from it. But obviously, first shout out to Rebecca Valentine. I don't agree with everything that Rebecca says as well, but like, you know, where kudos is due for like really great journalism, this is an example of it. This is a long form piece on IGN, and it was titled "How Hidden Nazi Symbols Were the Tip of a Toxic Iceberg at Life is Strange developer Deck 9." I don't know if there's anything as damning of an indictment on a studio for that as well. So, should we start, Adam?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
What are some of your highlights here?
I mean, should we kick off with the first part?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so the Nazi symbols and imagery, like that's probably we have to talk about it in the title as well. As I said, this is gonna be unfiltered. Whether you agree with our opinions or not, that is completely down to you. I'm gonna say some things that might be I'll be quite transparent about a lot of things that I know and stuff like that, and how I feel about certain things. So that is completely honest. But obviously, again, as always, leave your thoughts in the comments as well. We can read a couple out in the next episode as well in our topic of the in our comment of the day. Nazi symbol imagery, Adam. I think that's probably the first point to start with as well. It's pretty damning for the studio to have anything alleged to this. I don't get how something like this is overseen. Like, even like if it was like more goofy imagery or something else that was placed in that, then fair enough. When I say fair enough, it's like fair enough. But like for this to be included in here and the details to be outlined as well, and then, you know, for the fact that management allegedly wasn't taking a strong stance against it, I'm just so baffled by, like utterly baffled by.
Yeah, because even later in the article, they'll say like it could be just a series of inconvenience coincidences, and I'm just like, no, like this many, dude, like if it was like, let's say you put in the number 88 somewhere into it, it's like the number 88 and the number 18, someone catches it and be like, hey, this can be seen as this, fine. But you have the Hegel rune in this, and it's just like, that's pretty damning, dude. Like, it's not a series of coincidences. Like, this is like targeted at this point. And as someone who has Jewish blood in me, don't like this at all. Because there are people out there that will like to what's the correct term nowadays?
Stoked anti-Semitic.
Yeah, like make me disappear because I have Jewish blood. So yeah, no, I don't appreciate how this was just put into assets into a game about inclusiveness, you know?
Yeah, like, see, the problem as well with like the entire thing is like the fact that it's being flagged apparently to management and it's like not being addressed. That's like even more like damning of an indictment, because it's like, if it was like one off, like a meme, and it was like outlandish, and I'm not saying it's forgivable in any circumstance, but I'm saying if it was like maybe there's something happened and it's been placed there, then so be it. You can kind of try and deal with it in different regards, but the fact that it's been placed there, that's kind of really questionable, and it makes me wonder the shitheads that you have working there as well. Like, and I'm going to be very blunt with that as well, because like this starts to show personality in certain people. It's like, who have you been hiring? What have you been hiring for? And like what they're actually enveloping in their views as well. Because like, as you said as well, like, you know, the paragraphs are like damning because like True Colors, as it says here, won Games for Impact at the Game Awards, a GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Video Game, and then this comes up. It's like, you know.
Yeah. No, like the fact that you have such an impactful game. And that's the other thing. Like, how are you hiring these people for this sort of kind of game? You know, like how are these kind of people like entering into your threshold of your company that have this kind of humor and you're not doing anything about it? You know, like this is a serious matter, and this is something that will reflect your stock prices. This isn't like if you ever worked in a restaurant, okay, and if you ever worked as a line cook in a restaurant, you work with shit people. You know, like you work with some shitheads, but like the fact that there's, yeah, exactly. Like But the fact that these people are shitty people doesn't mean the food is bad.
Yeah.
It just means that, oh my god, I had to work with a shitty person that's going to get themselves in trouble. This is something that currently reflects what you stand for in terms of like, hey, we are an inclusive game company making inclusive games, and yet we have people that think it's funny to put in these kinds of memes. It's like it doesn't add up. That's a direct reflection of what kind of company you are.
Yeah, it's very unforgivable. It's just when they keep saying in the article, it's like, with Reputation, developers tell me there was an expectation that any whiff of hate speech would be immediately removed and thoroughly investigated, but as weeks went by, management remained silent and staff unrest grew. It's kind of like, yeah, it's a very difficult thing that to kind of like even talk about, and for them to even have in the studio. It shows a very poor management structure in place as well. And by the way, as well, we're not going to put timestamps for this segment. This is going to be one running long segment because there's going to be so much to talk about. It's as natural as it flows along as it does. By the way, as well, just kind of flagging this, doesn't this kind of like give you a bit of a domino effect from when Chris Floyd left the studio? We talked about that years ago on StrangeCast, and Chris Floyd was the Life is Strange Before the Storm co-director, and had left the studio and said that he didn't really agree with the direction that they were going in, and he wanted something different, and he kind of had a massive thread which you can read online. It's like since then it's been like a domino effect. It's like he left,
yes,
then it's like you've had rounds of layoffs there. It feels like something's just not been right at Deck Nine, and I find this very hard to talk about as well because like I've met people from Deck Nine, I've spoken to really lovely people from Deck Nine, and this kind of like story basically smears a lot of people because you work under that same umbrella. Because that's as you said as well, that kitchen analogy, you might work with a lot of shithead cooks in there, but at the same time the food is still good. But there's other people that are working there who are hard workers. Just because one bad egg happens doesn't mean that everyone's a bad egg. But yeah, wild to read that, and that's just in the first couple of paragraphs as well to talk about the Nazi imagery. Where do you want to go next?
Let's talk about crunch here, because we're going to talk about like even more of a smear of management. That this is just a direct reflection of what management is there.
You want me to read it, or do you want?
Sorry, I didn't want to take
I thought you were going to take the lead. You seemed like pretty like. I was going to let you like lead on it.
I'll take the lead on this. Deck Nine's first crack at Square Enix's popular narrative series involved significant crunch. So we're talking about True Colors here. While efforts were made to improve workloads on True Colors, overtime never fully vanished. One anonymous individual told me that they worked 70 to 80-hour work weeks for an entire month straight on True Colors. Another described taking on weeks of crunch to protect other team members, saying it was never mandated, but there's always way too much to get done in an allotted time. Much of the crunch, developers say, that was the direct result of the relationship between Deck Nine and Square Enix. Several people told me that.
Let's get onto that next, because I think Square Enix is its own animal. But I think like let's talk about your crunch subject here.
Yeah, it's just like all about. It's just a reflection of management. Everybody says like, oh, game culture is all about crunch. It's all about you get into the. I'm like, no, crunch is a direct and absolutely a reflection on absolute poor management. Like you have a bar you set, and crunch is only a reflection of like, hey, you're stupid. Like management is actually downright daft, as you would put it.
Always is, and there's always one man.
Daft, thick, weather for the ducks. But like, yeah, they have this expectation that they can get a game done within a year, and it's just like that's not how it works. But like that's management for you. Management just says like, oh, I just want to make the publisher happy, and I don't really care about my workers. It's not worker friendly, which is why when Donut came out with menstrual leave, that something like that, that's very worker friendly. That's a reflection on good management, because a lot of people will say like, oh, keep your politics out of my games. I'm like, you're not getting the point here. Is that it has to be worker friendly first and foremost. And when you have something as simple as menstrual leave, was that the right term for it? Was it menstrual leave?
The menstrual wellness policy, I think they said.
Yes. But something as simple as that tells me that, like, hey, we care about our workers. Crunch tells me you don't care. You just want to get a product out, and there's nothing to it. And that's unfortunate that they had to work 80-hour work weeks for an entire month. And it's just like, no. And all the blue collar workers that are coming at me with just like, oh, well, I work a construction job. I'm like, yeah, construction's even worse. Because construction, you work 80-hour work weeks because your foreman doesn't know how a project's supposed to be done. He gives these stupid deadlines and then just makes his workers do it. So yes, like 80-hour work weeks are a direct reflection on poor management. It's just
also
that's how it is.
And to add on to what you're saying as well, it's not a pissing competition to say you work harder and more hours than other people.
Yeah,
if you want to work 80 hours a week, then so fucking be it, because I'm going to be working 40 hours a week because I'm not overstretching my resources when I'm getting paid to do the job that I'm allocated my time period for. Is I don't get this measurement when people do it. It's like, well, I used to work 40, 58 hours. I'm like, if you wanted to work yourself to death in your prime years, then go for it. But for me, I'm not spending my prime years basically working my entire life and then losing it because of what? Because I want to work 80, 90 years as a plumber or whatever else.
Yeah.
That's your choice. You became a plumber. You know, that was your decision. If you work those stupid hours because your manager's saying it, then so be it. It's not on for me though. But when you've been saying all that as well, think about it as well. So 70, 80 hours that they said in this article, in that space of time period from like in between COVID, remember as well. So COVID happened. So the shutdown happened of like pretty much the entire US economy and like Colorado and the studios and stuff that they're working in. They basically released Wavelengths, True Colors, and the Remastered Collection. And how much we bashed on the Remastered Collection as we did because of how poorly produced it was. That's an example of it. Because you're basically now stretching the studio across 3 different projects. Different timescales, by the way, obviously. We know that. But still, 3 projects in the work there that didn't need to be done in that cycle. And you wonder why, for example, the game comes out the way that it does. Like, crunch is abhorrent. We've talked about it before. We've talked about it so many times. It's an abhorrent part of the industry. Jason Schreier at Bloomberg has done so many pieces on it. Same at Kotaku. It's not appropriate. It's just not appropriate. I don't care about GTA 6. It doesn't need to be the size and scale of the United States to be impressive for me. And it's like, it doesn't need all these other resources in it. It needs to be built by people who can make a manageable game. Like, I can't remember growing up, Adam, about crunch. Maybe I was too young. I really can't remember it being stories about it. It seems like the last 10, 15 years, if anything. It's like every other story, there seems to be a story about crunch at a different studio. And it's baffling to me. It's absolutely baffling.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, I think it's a result of like back when we were younger. 1, there wasn't as much game journalism as there was today, and 2, they hide it much better, and 3, not just hide it better, but back in the 90s and early 2000s, you didn't really think about like working hard. You didn't, or should I say, working too hard, like overworking yourself. You're just like, yep, that's just how it is. It's just the way it is. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
like you don't really stand up for yourself. You just take it and you're just like, well, that's just how life is. It's like, no. But now people are coming out and saying like, hey, I'm exhausted because my management is working me 80 hours a week. I think this happened, like this has happened before. I mean, talk about the video game crash of 1983. E.T. was asked to be developed within 3 weeks, I believe they said. They asked him 3 weeks to make E.T. And we were like, oh, why is it such a crappy game? Crunch happened. Even back like when video games first started. We're just hearing about it now because games journalism is a thing, you know?
No, I completely agree with it.
It's stupid. It's
stupid. There's not much else I can really say. I can't defend it. I can't defend like, oh, someone working X amount of hours to get this project done in this kind of timescale. It just shows you how lost the gaming industry is at the minute, especially with where it's at right now, and why people leave it and why people don't enter it, and why, for example, I've always said repeatedly, like, I don't want a job in it and I don't ever want to work in it because it's just not worth it. For me personally, it's not worth it. Like, do you know how many people like go through these issues?
Sorry,
like,
I just want to say E.T. was developed in 5 weeks. That's my bad. 5 weeks.
Still 5 weeks for a game in that period and that time period and like that software and stuff. Nah.
Yeah. So I just want to clarify that he actually had more time than I thought. He didn't go through crunch. It was 5 weeks, not 3 weeks.
Well, isn't there like one of the issues in that game, for example, where you basically fall down a hole and you might not be able to get out of it because of like. So it's like that's, for example, something that would have been like if he had like 5 more weeks or a reasonable like window, he could actually like iron that out. But basically, it's been put on a cartridge, sent out. And it's like now in history, you can't change that.
But
you know,
imagine like even with today's standards, making a fully fledged, sellable to the mass market, making a game in 5 weeks. Like that's insanity. Like even if you just do pixel art, like if you just do the bare minimum, like something you could sell for $30, make a game in 5 weeks, brother. Like that's insanity to me. Like no.
Yeah, it's insanity. It is.
Anyways, but my point is that it's been happening, but we're just hearing about it now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and it's like I can't really defend it. I can't say much more about it. It's just ridiculous. And speaking of ridiculous, should we continue for these next couple of paragraphs? Because I'll read them out because I have to read these out, Adam, because they're fucking wild as well. Oh my god! Right, and obviously it's my favorite company, Square Enix, as you'll know. Several people told me, and this is from the article. Several people told me it felt as though Square Enix had sold Life is Strange to the lowest bidder. And this was frequently reflected in production schedules with tight deadlines and small budgets. Multiple people were aware of producers being forced by their bosses and Square Enix to rework production schedules, so it looked like every milestone fit within a very limited development timeframe, despite their arguments that it was impossible. One called Square Enix, and specifically Square Enix London, who worked with Deck 9 directly, quote unquote, bullies, end quote. Another source elaborated, saying, quote unquote, Square always put a lot of pressure on our people, so that toxicity started to bleed into our environment too, end quote. Others I spoke to expressed frustrations at Square Enix for different reasons. It was far too hands-on with the script. Sure, Life is Strange is a Square Enix-owned IP, but sources told me that Square Enix seemed oddly reluctant or outright hostile to the divisive themes and ideas that Life is Strange fans love. For example, multiple people record an incident during True Color's development where Square Enix told multiple developers it didn't want the Life is Strange to be thought of as a quote-unquote gay game, end quote. So let me just 2 paragraphs and we'll quickly continue this on. Mallory Littleton, who worked at Deck 9, who left previously during the first round of layoffs, said, and I quote, there's a lot of press out there praising True Colors for having the first bisexual lead in a Life is Strange game, which I don't think is correct anyway. I think people point this out anyway. Even in our press guides from Square Enix, all the way up to review codes were out. We were not saying anything about Alex's sexuality, period, at all. And when they did the advanced copies and all these reviews came out saying how amazing it was to finally see an explicitly bi protagonist, and after that Square Enix was like, just kidding, Alex is absolutely canonically 100% bisexual, end quote. Square Enix declined to comment for this article, but instead pointed IGN to Deck 9's response, which we include at the end of the article. We'll go on to that later. Adam, you want to start?
Yes. That's insane to me that Square Enix told multiple developers it didn't want Life is Strange to be thought of as the gay game. What?
I can't laugh. I'm sorry. I know it's such a serious subject, but I can't stop. Like, honestly, because we had a conversation off podcast stuff about it, because I said the gay game title felt a bit weird, a bit strange in the way it's conceptualized, because I assumed that people assumed it's gay game in the sense of like love relationships. But then I said to you, it's like, is it because of diversity and inclusion? And you were like, yes, that's what they're referring to as it being a gay game. So I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But yeah.
It's insane to me that they're just like, Square Enix has so many different IPs, and they don't really care. It doesn't really seem like they care about Life is Strange. So
no,
why on earth are they telling developers like, I don't want this IP that I don't care about to be considered the gay game? Like, at that point, in terms of like, if you're Square Enix, who cares? You know, like, we all care. Like, we if you're watching this podcast or you're listening to this podcast, you care about Life is Strange. But Square Enix doesn't seem to care. So it's like, why are they just like off the rip, like telling people like, I don't want, I can't, there's no there can't be such a thing as a gay game. Like, excuse me. Also, I love how they were considered bullies to Deck 9. And again, going back to management just like laid down and said, yes, please. Tell me more about how we need to do more crunch, Square Enix. Thank you, Daddy. And they're just like bullies to them. And again, it's just wild to me how hands-on Square Enix was, and to the point that they were bullies.
I've said it so many times in this podcast. Every time we've had a conversation, I've always said, like, even when people were slating the remaster collection, they were saying all this, and I was like, fair enough, Deck 9 deserves credit because it is developed. I'm like, there is an overarching publisher on this game, you know? We've talked about it for 3-4 years on this podcast. We spoke about Oscar Gobert's interview when he was talking about the contracts that they negotiate with Square Enix. Me and Adam were like, it's very interesting, his phrasing, the way he's phrasing this, because it's like, I'd love to sit in a room with Oscar Gobert and see what he actually thinks of Square Enix, because he'll probably tell you exactly what he feels. But it's like it was very like political talk the way he was phrasing it. But it's like, I've said it time and time again that you don't know how much Square Enix has got a lot of involvement over this series. A lot of it. For example, right, guys, and let me just say this as well, because you've probably been on this channel for a while. Goes the Emma Vicelli interview, yeah? That was done without Square Enix knowing about it at first. Square Enix found out afterwards, yeah? Do you really think that if that interview had been vetted beforehand, that Square Enix would have let Emma Vicelli tell us what the original pitch for the Life is Strange comic series was going to be? Because if I remember correctly, Emma Vicelli tells me, and I'm like, that is dope, because she basically wanted to do a story around like the conspiracy theories around the Vortex Club, and there's this kind of like little hidden thing about it, and I'm like, that sounds like dope as shit. And then instead we get something completely different, and it sounds like that wasn't Emma Vicelli's story to be written. It was like a Square Enix story commissioned with Emma Vicelli at the helm of it. And let me just say, I love Emma Vicelli as well. I think she's fantastic, no matter what people think. She's very, 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 really wholesome about it. But do you really think they would have let that happen if they had vetted it beforehand? And that's like my first inkling of like knowing that they were hands-on with it. I know that they were very hands-on with True Color. True Color's development changed quite significantly. Look at how way it's presented. Why do you think me and Adam are always like, I'm like, I don't hate it, but I'm like, it's so safe. It's such a like Force Awakens moment of like going back to this series. It's like, oh, let's take a new hope and we'll make it inside the Force Awakens, because it's like just a safe way of going about the series if we're going to reboot it, or like have a soft reboot, if anything.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, Square Enix was just like saying, like, we want it this way, we don't want to be seen as the gay game. We're going to tell you what we want, how we want it. And it's just like, huh? Like, it's just so odd to me, man. It's so weird to be this hands-on on a series that you just obviously don't care about. It's just kind of, it's wild to me.
They're lost about ideas. They don't know what to do with it, because like I don't like this relates to the Don't Nod game, the second one. Like how like anti Life is Strange 2 are they? They just don't like it because it didn't sell anywhere near, didn't have the same success, and they just don't accept it despite the fact that it has a fan base. And it's like, and you can see where the stifling of like creativity happened of it as well, and why like Don't Nod has like gone a completely separate direction from Life is Strange. It's like, it's not worth it. It's like not worth it at all. Like I just don't know, like with like Square Enix, like, by the way, it's like let me just give you context as well. So like, because I've bashed Square Enix enough on this channel, and I never expect anything from Square Enix. Don't want anything from Square Enix. I don't want anything from any developer. This is like, for me, I've always said this. I want you to come here and think me and Adam aren't shills. We're clear-cut opinions. I'm not sitting there parading around with my Alex Chen Life little jacket because everyone's got it through a press kit. But I think I'm coming across as like really spiteful because I didn't get my Alex Chen jacket, so I can sit here and be like, "Ooh, Adam, look at me, I'm great." No. Clear-cut opinions, straight to the fact. One thing no one will ever do on this podcast is ever call out my integrity, my morals, or my ethics. We cover everything. We did this with Dido's comment. Dido said, "Why didn't you cover that story?" Me and Adam even said it on the podcast because Adam didn't even know I was going to bring that comment up. I was like, and then even Adam was like, actually, fair point, because it looks like maybe we're skewing the agenda here, that we don't cover Don't Nod. No, we cover it because if Don't Nod had allegations, Don't Nod's going to get allegations covered as well. Don't expect anything in return. I've been highly critical of Tencent's investment in Don't Nod. Every single podcast, wherever I can mention it, I mentioned it. So it's like, I have no allegiance to Don't Nod. I speak about their games, I love their games, but where things have to be critical, they have to be critical. But with this, for example, with Square Enix as well, let me give you the truth about this channel, yeah? Let me give you the truth, because a lot of you have been here for a long time, and I'm very grateful for that as well. Do you not think that I've wanted Life is Strange developers on this channel for a long period of time? Do you not think that Life is Strange developers have wanted to come onto this channel and talk about their game that they love and play and make for you guys? They would happily come on here because it's free publicity. Why do you think Kylie Brown comes on here every single time and talks about stuff? It's not even about like if she's doing anything or whatever else. She comes on here because it's like good to talk with her community of people who like her. We can give back to people, etc. I don't expect anything in return from them. As with Square Enix, who do you think, for example, isn't letting the creativity for me to make these channels? Do you not think I've had some kind of contact with Square Enix? I've got receipts. I've got nothing to worry about with what I'm saying here as well. My communication with Square Enix ceased about 4 years ago. That was it. Square Enix has only ever had input in one video on this channel. One video, yeah? That is the Emma Vicelli interview, right? We only told them because afterwards I told Emma Vicelli, I was like, maybe we should involve Square in it because obviously you're still involved with the comic series. Maybe something's happened here. Square Enix got involved in it. I'm not going to tell you any names. I'm just going to tell you what happened with it as well. And this relates to what's happened here as well. So it's the line where it's where we're talking about now. Too far hands-on with the script, yeah? Square Enix asked for cuts in that interview, specific ones, yeah? I don't have the original recording. I can't upload it to prove it as well. Like, unfortunately, that recording has gone, which is a shame. I wish I kept it. It was on Zoom. It was on my old computer. The hard drive got wiped, etc. One of the cuts in that interview, if you want to go and watch it as well, Emma Vicelli says a specific line, right? A very specific line. She refers to it because she's basically talking about the Life is Strange comic series. She's saying like, you know, we wanted to diversify the characters. They have Pixie in there. They have this person in there. They have that person in there. She was like, obviously, like the first Life is Strange is a very white game. It's like a very white cast, you know? Along those lines, that's what she's saying. It's not directly that, but she refers to it in that. I think about 40 minutes into the interview, Square Enix asked for that to be cut. They were like, we basically embrace diversity. We want to move forward whilst not diminishing the previous games we made or the kind of product. That's what they were alluding to essentially in the explanation they gave me. Again, have it in an email. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to specify exactly what it says. That was a request that they made. That for me exactly highlights, for example, it was too far hands-on with the script.
Yeah.
They've been so far hands-on with the script. I've spoken specifically to developers who worked on Life is Strange who would want to come on this channel, but then wouldn't come on unless I asked for Square Enix's response directly for them to come on. Square Enix never responded to those requests. Or if they did and I had some communication with them, nada.
Yeah.
Apparently busy. One of the devs was like that. Apparently busy. He's got a busy production schedule. I was like, hang on a minute. I've spoken to him. He's happy to come on here. No. Busy production schedule. Can't come on. I'm like, but again, can I interview Claudio Leonardi? Claudio's really busy at the minute. I'm like, I can make time to work around. No, Claudio's not busy. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So for anyone who's ever watched it, for example, Life After Strange was meant to evolve that way. So it's going to be all the voice actors, going to be all these different people. There's going to be people involved with the project, the production teams, etc. Nada. That's why I never responded to those comments where someone was like, bring on Michelle Koch, bring on this person. Didn't come on for that reason. If you ever watch StrangeCast and you look at Zachary Andrews coming on here, and you have like Stefan Frost on here from Deck 9, they came on because that was a Deck 9 game with Telltale. They asked Telltale and Deck 9, and they're like, yeah, you can come on here. Nada. Not Square Enix. So that's just to give you an indictment. That is why I'm stupidly critical among many other things with Square Enix. Because as I said before, I don't care about your Alex Chen jacket that you can get from like press kits that you give to people, yeah? I care more about making actual good quality content, and I want people to be here. The day someone tries to call me out in the comment section saying, hey, you know, you're a shill and you're all this, I'm going to go Adam Evolt, not Milky Bar Kid on you. That's what I'm going to be doing, but it's going to be even 10 times more explosive.
Like, I want gifties. Don't put me on this. I like.
Well, you're going to get a pine from that, not the Milky Bar Kid. But great response from them, by the way. But anyway, like I wanted to give you a production like insight into it because Square Enix do stifle creativity. From what I know, other devs I've spoken to, we know this. We've heard this before. Like I know this from other developers who have spoken about it. It's not something new or completely different. Like I've had the opportunity to have contacts within the industry and have spoken to them and heard about it. But it's like I've had experiences with Square Enix, which is why I don't work with them. You've spoken about Adam with working with Microsoft. Like I tried to get August Aiden Black on here for an interview when he was playing Tyler in Tell Me Why. And oh my God, I'm genuinely kidding you. Microsoft stopped that interview from happening so many times. He was so down for coming on here. I was like, that's so cool to have him on here. I want to talk about him. He's the first lead transgender character. Great interview, etc. Nah. I was like, nah, it's Microsoft like, yeah, we've got loads of interviews to do with like August Aiden Black. I'm like, he's free now. Nah. He's got interviews to do. I'm like, What do you mean, no? It's like this channel is basically free publicity because, like, for example, I might not be IGN, you're not IGN. We might not have a million people, but basically people will come here because they like Life is Strange. So you're basically talking to the people directly who like your game.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like a lot of people.
Sorry, Adam. Sorry, I had to go from that.
Like on my end with when I did games and groceries, like, and I had all these like really cool guests on. A lot of people don't know the ins and outs of trying to get a guest. Like me and Adnan, before we even did this podcast, we would like vent to each other, like trying to get guests on our own shows. And like he would be doing Life is Strange, I would be doing the games industry in a whole. And it's like to start a game podcast and get guests on that the fans want, it's more than you think it is. It's not just like getting ignored by an email. No, it's exactly what Adnan says. You have to go through so many red hoops, hoops and red tape. It's a lot, and people don't really realize that until you try. Until you actually try to like get somebody and go through somebody like Square Enix. Yeah.
That's the difficult. Like in itself, I'll say this as well. There are actors who never came on Life After Strange because Square Enix never responded to them. So they were like, we were communicating in emails, and they'd be like, "I'd love to come on top at Life is Strange. Love to talk to the community. Never had an opportunity. However, I'm going to reach out to Square Enix first because I want to get permission to come on because obviously I've signed like contracts and NDAs and blah blah." I'm like, no. The minute that they did that, I was like, no. And do you know how many interviews I lost because of it? How many people had never came on here? Like some people, then eventually actors would just blank all my emails because the publisher would never respond to that email and give them permission. So they felt, "Oh, I don't want to come on here and say something," and they email me afterwards. That is basically it. Do you ever wonder why like none of the True Colors actors came on here during the actual like press releases and stuff? They were on everything. They were on like Rock Paper Shotgun. Katie Bentz was on on a media round. Mallory Littleton was on a media round. Erica Mori. Why would you not come on the Life is Strange fan channel? Why would you not come on like this small little fan channel? Why would you not appeal to people? I'm not saying it like I deserve this kind of thing, but why would you not come on our publicity like thingy here?
No, it's definitely and I tell this to a lot of people, it's a lot of politics. It's a lot of politics. I've gotten some good responses out of developers. Like for example, sorry. Sorry. Oh, come on. Give me the name because his name is, there we go. Joseph Farris.
Great.
Yeah, Hazelight Studios. When It Takes Two won an award, right? I really wanted Joseph Farris on the show. And I got a really good response saying that like, hey, Joseph Farris is only doing like publicated series because he's taking a break after this. He's exhausted, he's tired. If it's something like IGN or GameSpot, he's going to do it, but unfortunately he has to pick and choose because he wants to take a break afterwards. That was the most like fair response I've ever heard. But like so I applaud to like Hazelight Studios, applaud to Joseph Farris for giving me like that, but yeah, no, what Adnan is saying is very much true. Like just like you get somewhere and then all of a sudden just ghosted. And it's just like, what the heck? But for that is the only company to give me that much of a great email saying no. That's the only company. Every other company either ghost me directly or they give me a response and then ghost me. And it's just like, come on, man.
I've given up on it. Like that's why, like for example, like is this. Like, I'll get back to the interviews and stuff at some point, but it's like it's like so crushing when you do it, especially with the bigger companies. Like they are just so difficult to work with. Like even for example, like when I was working at Hardcore Gamer, Life is Strange 2 was coming out. I got in contact with Roman George's agents. Who Roman George is Sean Diaz, Daniel Diaz, sorry, in Life is Strange 2. So I got in contact with them. They were like, we're down for an interview. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. It's like, you know, Daniel Diaz himself, Roman George will do an interview for a professional publication. We need the publisher's permission first before we do this.
Yeah.
So like, okay. And I try and get contacts with Square Enix, email them, didn't hear anything back. Interview died in the water. Free interview for that, nothing. It's like I've been fortunate with the other interviews that I did for like those publications, like Katie, Hannah, Sarah for like Cassidy. Didn't have to deal with Square Enix with those, but it's like the other ones. It was like And it's like they've had such a stifling creativity role, and that's what I'm saying over the franchise. It's not Deck Nine's fault for me personally, like a lot of things. It is on Square Enix. They are the publisher on this. I'm so critical of it because it's like
Can I
you know.
read this one article while you're like venting?
Please do.
So multiple sources gave the impression in our conversations that Deck Nine's relationship with Square Enix for Life is Strange was largely one of convenience rather than any deep appreciation for the series. Square Enix liked that Deck Nine was willing to do the game for a lower budget than any other studio, and it had StoryForge tool, which was made for narrative venture games. Deck Nine, for its parts, needed a good IP to pair with StoryForge. Telltale already knew it had rights to many other appealing ones, blah blah blah. But basically, like, Square Enix said, "Oh, Deck Nine will do it at a lower price, and it has the means to do it." So yeah, it's convenience rather than we like this series, which again goes into my first point of like, why do you care? Like how it's perceived. If you're just like going for like the lowest bidder, essentially, why do you care? You
This is
know?
mad, isn't it? It's just mad. You can't win with them. They are running.
How does Michael sorry, I'm so tired right now.
Mallory.
No, Michelle.
Michelle.
Michelle Koch.
I was going with M, man.
No, how does Michelle Koch feel about all this? That his beloved IP, his characters, his world is being treated like this. His IP is
I would love to sit in a room with him. I'd be like Michelle, Raoul Barbet, and Jean-Luc, and Luke, and be like, close the door, like put all like set an EMP off and destroy all the phones and electricity nearby. Be like, boys,
and give them
please
all
tell
a bottle of wine and some baguettes and just be... So I'm sorry. Please come on the show. I'm sorry. I'm the horrible person. No, just like I'll sit down with him, a bottle of wine. Let's fucking go. But no, like honestly, as a creative myself, and not to the level of Jean-Luc or any of that team, but like as a creative myself, if my IP, like if the IP of Castor Garden was to be treated like this, to be like fully hands-on, but also you don't care about it, any deep appreciation for it, God, it would just break my heart. It would actually absolutely break my heart.
Well, you say that as well. And Michelle's done that where he's like said where his like feelings have been on certain things, where it's like obviously the remaster collection. Like we saw him tweet a couple of things, like when Max was crying and stuff, and he gave his input, and the same with the introduction scene, where they put a loading screen in there. So we see like every like little details of Michelle's giving his input. Well, obviously, we'll never speak about it publicly, and I don't know anything that he said anyway, just to kind of add on to that. But it's like, I imagine his feelings will be like how Oscar Gilbert felt with that interview. It's like, wait, where it's like, you know, why they did the contracts with Square Enix. It stifles creativity, doesn't it? It's like, I can't imagine what Michelle was pitching, and it was like, yeah, well, Square Enix might be like, nah, mate. And they're like, and he's like, but this is how it feels. No, mate. So we're going to be doing the game like this. You can see how they did it. Like they treat like Life is Strange 2 as a forgotten child. It just pops up and it's like, oh, well, it's nice for you to accept that, you know, Sean and Daniel existed in this universe. Like, seeing as you don't like talk about it as much. But like, you can see it with like, this, they're basically hidden all that material because, by the way, as well, let's have a conversation about the gay game, yeah? Because we'll come on to it about Izzy as well later. In another conversation, they've done that because they want to market it to as many audiences as possible. Because, like you've said there, they sold Life is Strange off to the lowest bidder, right? The game feels like that because True Colors feels like a triple. It looks like a triple A game, doesn't it? It looks like a triple A game, but it's genuinely a double A game. If anything, it looks marvelous in terms of like the way the motion capture and stuff. But it still is a double A game because the entire town is an L shape. That's the town, an L shape. It's not a full explore town. It's not a fully explored town, is it? You expect that to be a triple A experience where it's like, oh, you can fully explore the game, and it's like it's how no, it's an L shape, so it's restricted for what you have.
And I love how the novel even points that out. The last novel that came out,
Rose 4.
Yes, and Rosie Thor like even mentioned in her novel, it's like, oh, it's weird how the town is so small and it's like an L. I'm like, you know, like Rosie Thor meant as like a hit. She's like, oh, why is it so small? Weird, isn't it? And Square Enix like, oh yeah, this is a small town. We agree with this, and just got it written in.
Oh my god, I'm so annoyed.
Such a jab. That was such
a jab.
Annoyed.
I'm so annoyed reading this entire thing. I feel so upset about a lot of things in this piece. We haven't even got to all the details of it.
Yeah, I was about to say, you want to move forward with some of the allegations?
Please. Yeah. Where should we move to? I feel like
let's talk about the actual speaking on alongside complaints of low pay and difficult to gain promotions, specifically with women in the studio. And aforementioned crunch, many people I spoke to expressed frustration that management allowed numerous instances of toxic behavior to go unaddressed for months on end. And these are sexual harassment, bullying, transphobia, and otherwise toxic work culture, and multiple individuals cooperated. In one example, multiple people remembered a senior programmer who frequently made sexist remarks and crude jokes with both racial and sexual overtones. And then somebody said that he was harassing a young female producer, and their side was like he was always yelling, and then they said, okay, we'll move his desks farther away so you can't hear he's yelling as much. So
that solves the problem, doesn't it?
Honestly. And every woman I spoke to for this piece had at least one story of being treated poorly or harassed during her time there. And it is almost hard to receive any promotions or raise. And yeah, and I love this part. Madeline Tate, a former producer at Deck 9, said every promotion where a woman got promoted took a team effort. Everyone suggesting them, sending emails, both men and women, dozens, trying to get them promoted. So we're talking about harassment and women just having to fight to get a promotion that they deserve and that they earned. Yeah. And a senior programmer making racial overtones. I'm just like, dog, who are you hiring?
Dog, who you're hiring and who you're putting in positions. It seems to be like an experience that many people feel in the workplace as well. That's where it starts to come about. And I'm not saying that it's actually right, by the way, just to quickly prefacing that. It's just the fact that this seems to be like a common occurrence, which you'll find in the workplace, where people shitheads end up in management positions and higher positions. And you wonder how the fuck they got there. But all they did was play office politics. I told you this is going to be unfiltered. I'm going to swear as well, much as I want to say. I'm very pissed off about the news of this because it's just it's a very bad look, by the way. Because why I'm going to say it as well, because one, it's reaffirmed why I've said a lot of things about Square Enix, as I've said, and I've been proven right about those a lot of times as well. And they might be making allegations here, but I've felt very strongly about the way that Life is Strange has been handled by Square Enix, and more so because I feel like Life is Strange could carry on even under Square Enix and Deck 9. We've spoken about it. You said it more so as well, where it's like you'd love to see Deck 9 have its own outing with a game where it has its own control over it and a creative talent, because it's a different studio from Don't Nod, but it's a good studio. So it's like they could have a lot of talent with that. So I'm pissed off about that. And then I'm pissed off the fact that Deck 9 has allowed this to happen, because there's, again, a lot of talented developers out there now who are going to have to sit quietly on social media and aren't going to tweet about it, because basically some shitheads have ruined like the reputation of this company and put it into the bin. So that's why I'm pissed off about things here. I've got nothing else to put in stock with it, but it's just annoying for this reason. So yeah, on top of that as well, yeah, what you've just read is just that. I mean, should we go into the next piece, the person who's been named, because this is a big...
I was going to say, I'm going to let you cook on this part. One, because you're the most passionate about this, and two, I'm running on 4 hours of sleep, so you go and cook. So
Zak Garriss from previously Deck 9 has been named in a very big, extensive piece on him. So I'm just going to go into this part of the paragraph, which is... while these broader issues pervade the day-to-day of the team's work, which was like toxic behavior, microaggression, transphobia, etc., sources say narrative faced internal conflict as well, largely centered on its leader, narrative director, and eventual Deck 9 CCO, Zak Garriss. So Garriss is known. He worked at Deck 9 since 2016, worked on a narrative director at the Before the Storm, was elevated to True Colors' director, as we saw as well. So in here, the allegations say, and I quote, but elsewhere in the studio, Garriss cultivated a different reputation. As Deck 9 began work on True Colors, sources say Garriss began forming close relationship with a number of younger women, often in situations where he had some sort of mentorship or other power over them, including at least one woman on his team. Multiple women describing him as quote unquote love bombing, quote, end quote, them when they first met, showering them with compliments and convincing them he could get promotions or raises. Sources say he frequently stayed late at the studio talking to these women, inviting them to lunch, dinner, drinks, movies, or even to his house after work. While in all these situations, sources say he instigated personal conversations and would even text some of them after hours about personal topics. So this is Mallory Littleton, who's now recalling, and she said, and I quote, "He'd walk me to my car, I'd open the door, say goodbye, and he'd sort of linger. We'd keep talking, I'd sit down, and he'd linger again next to the door open. He never made a particularly overt move. It was always subtle enough. It felt like it was always maybe just a vibe that I wasn't getting. I felt stupid, first of all, for ending up in the situation with him in the first place, but because he never clearly made a move, maybe I was just reading too much into the whole thing. It wasn't until I explained it in great detail to others that someone clued me in," end quote. So, multiple women who experienced this behavior from Garriss described a pervasive feeling of being unable to tell him, quote unquote, no, end quote, when he crossed personal boundaries due to his status at the studio. The feeling only increased over time and bled into the workplace, with several of others I spoke to reporting numerous incidents of him lashing out against those who disregarded with him at work. This was especially true of those fighting for thoughtful, authentic, or sensitive portrayals of divisive characters. Tate, for instance, recalled being formally reprimanded for criticizing Garriss's seemingly reluctance to allow women in his scripts to express anger. Littleton recounted Garriss telling her that he didn't think representation mattered because, quote unquote, he didn't necessarily identify every white man protagonist, and so other people shouldn't identify with the other characters, look at the same, end quote. Littleton said, and I added, at a certain point, our job became finding a way to couch feedback in a way that Zak would hear more than it was coming with feedback, and I quote. So just a couple of things. I'm not going to keep reading because it's quite a lot, so I'm just going to take other things here. So 2 anonymous individuals told me that Deck 9's social team wanted to post something in support of Black Lives Matter. Garriss pushed back, calling Black Lives Matter a hate group. In another example, multiple people told me that Garriss fought hard for a twist on True Colors' final choice that a number of writers pointed out included problematic portrayal of migrant workers and needed to be changed. It eventually was. And several sources recorded a meeting in which Garriss told those who had pushed back on the decisions that they were getting too hung up on, quote unquote, political ideologies, end quote, and asked everyone present to go around the room and list their political affiliations. So I think we'll go to here, and then we'll come back on to this. Garriss has responded to these allegations as well. I should add as well in the article. So many people told me about a scene Garriss wrote for True Colors that writers felt they had to fight excessively hard to change. In the final script of True Colors, the main character Alex is taken to the woods by Jed, who thinks she's his friend. He betrays her, shooting her and missing, causing her to fall into an abandoned mineshaft. Spoiler for True Colors. However, in Garriss's original version, Jed spikes her drink at a bar and takes her out to the woods for an attempted murder. When they saw the version of the game, a number of people pushed back, arguing that the scene would intentionally trigger associations with date rape. Multiple individuals, including a number of women, recalled having to fight back extensively with Garriss about this scene before it was eventually changed. So, actually, I'll put this in as well. So, it's Littleton said it took a 3-hour meeting in the writers' room, and one of the writers sharing an extremely personal story to get Garriss to agree to get the content out. It wasn't about us wanting to have difficult topics in there, but Life is Strange shines because that type of content is chosen extremely deliberately, and it's given runway, it's given space to breathe. The detail is irrelevant to the plot. It would be traumatic for players, and there was no space to unpack it. We don't have time to talk about what it means for Alex to be roofied by a man she trusted, end quote.
Yeah, this is just a lot on Garriss. I was saying to Adnan off podcast that Garriss, it seems here, is towing a line. And what I mean by a line is that, like, I've worked with a lot of managers in my time, and there's a line between you're being an asshole and you're being a shitty person. And it just seems right here he is very much towing the line. When I say there's a line, managers can be assholes sometimes. Managers can be just like rude and just like egotistical and just be like, my way goes, blah 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 blah. And then a shitty person absolutely becomes hostile, makes you feel uncomfortable, takes advantage of you in many certain ways. But an asshole is just very egotistical, and it just seems like here Garriss is really towing the line.
Yeah, like I'm very mixed about this part of the entire like article, if anything, with Zak Garriss, because I don't owe Zak Garriss anything. I have no stock in Zak Garriss. I've never spoken to Zak Garriss. But like for me, I've spoken to a lot of people about Zak Garriss. So for example, on this channel as well, Zak Garriss's name has been mentioned a lot. So for example, Zandrews came on here. Zachary Andrews, who's the motion capture director at Deck 9, worked on The Expanse. Zak Garriss was at Telltale at the time because he's working in their studio. Same with Stefan Frost, who's the director on The Expanse, has worked with them. Worked with Zak Garriss. I've spoken to Webb when I was on Webb's stream. Webb spoke about Zak Garriss taking the helm of True Colors because he was Webb was the performance director on that game and Zach had taken game director role. I've spoken to multiple female actors for this on this channel, including for Life After Strange, Erica Mori, Anastasia Davidson, Katie Bentz, Xenia Scott, Danielle Vivatis, the men as well, Steve Austin, Jim Hunt, etc. I never heard anything bad about Zak Garriss. That doesn't mean that he's like, completely clean, by the way, just to say that. But I'm kind of like just mixed with what it is. When Adam said it to me, it kind of agreed with what I said, where I felt that he's towing a line here. Maybe he overstepped his boundaries, where it feels like he was basically taking the management role and saying what he felt at that point and having that kind of thing. Like in itself, like and this is not to excuse it. So I'm just taking to Mallory Littleton's account for example, where it talks about the car, for example. I've spoken about this previously, on the podcast, and I have my own formal diagnosis. I have my own formal diagnosis of autism. So, for example, I can't read social cues. In that situation, I said to Adam, I would prefer someone say it to me because I'm like, oh shit, I made you feel really uncomfortable. And it's like, maybe she has, by the way, Mallory Littleton. But it's like, I might just take that as behavior where if I was in his position, I'm just chatting with her and maybe I'm like deep in a conversation, etc. And whatever has happened. I mean, like in itself, Mallory Littleton said she's gone and spoke to other people. Mm-hmm. That's also both a good thing and a bad thing as well, because people can easily stoke the flames of something that completely is wrong about that. Because Zak Garriss might not be doing anything in that suggestion. He might just be talking to her because he's having some conversation. Other things I can't refute. I'm not going to say I'm not going to defend him on that. That's just a different context, etc. But I'm just saying that in my situation, I feel like I could be put in that position where it's like, because of my really terrible cues at reading people and the language and stuff, I could be like, oh shit, I have no self-awareness of what I'm doing here. Doesn't defend my behavior, but I'd rather someone say, actually, this is a little bit like this. I'm like, I get it. Okay, sorry about that. And then we move on from it.
Yeah.
But with like Garriss on other things as well, like even, for example, the scene about Alex, okay, I get it as well, because if anything, there's more of a build up for me. That's the issue. I feel like you could build up to that because the game is set in a bar for a lot of it. I feel like there's a long kind of process with it. But then to kind of like say what Mallory Littleton's saying, where it's like, yeah, well, we don't want to like, spark some kind of like provocation in someone in terms of like a past experience. I said to Adam, there's a problem with that because that conflicts with what Life is Strange's ideology is anyway, because Life is Strange has shown that. Did you get a warning at the beginning of episode 2, Life is Strange 1, saying that actually someone might die at the end of it and commit suicide? Did you?
No.
Did you? Like me and Adam have openly spoken about suicidal feelings, etc. I remember playing Life is Strange 1. No one ever gave me a suicide warning flag for that. 13 Reasons Why, a famous Netflix TV show, went back and revamped it. And in the first season, they added warnings at the beginning of it. They didn't have anything at the first, but they added like, warning signs at the beginning of each episode, especially the one where the scene happens that they eventually cut as well. That's my issue with it, because it's like, you're saying that, if you don't want to include the spiking drink, I understand it, because in the sense that I understand that maybe it causes some kind of traumatic experience for someone. It might spark something. But again, Life is Strange has played with these ideas before. Kate Marsh is an example of that. They talk about drug issues. They talk about someone being potentially, put on some kind of drug and taken advantage of. The entire thing with Jefferson as well. Like, that's where the similarities start coming for me. Where it's like, if that had happened in True Colors, that scene, then I would have even pulled even more of a comparison with the first Life is Strange, more so than I have anyway in conversations. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's a little bit like a creative conflict, if anything, the way that that's expressed in this article. Like, this seems like a very big different one, and it feels like with eventual pushback, he backed down from it. But again, he's also the game director on this game as well. So it's like, I feel like if he's kind of like, I feel like when I'm talking about this, I feel like I might get in trouble because all I've seen at the minute is like negative backlash to Zak Garriss, and I'm like,
well, like I said, it's just like it's bad because he is towing the line. I mean, there's one thing you didn't mention here, as several sources recall the meeting which Garriss told those who pushed back on this decision, that being a problematic portrayal of migrant workers. Garriss told those who pushed back on that decision that they were getting too hung up on political ideologies and asked everyone present to go around the room and list their political affiliations. And now, Adnan, I don't know how it is in Brit, but in America, that's illegal. Like, and it's an American company, and that's illegal to do that in a. When I say he's towing the line, he is towing the line of being an asshole and a shitty person, and that's towing the line.
For example, it's everything after the word "and" there, because he could have stopped at political ideologies and be like, and you've towing the line. It's that one step where he goes after it. So it's like you could have just stopped it saying that, oh, you are, because like, let's be honest as well, all right? About True Colors. True Colors ain't perfect, you know. They had the entire thing about the Tibet flag, that entire fiasco about China, right? I think there's even one of the games where they have like, I think is it Costa Rican flag? They messed something up where flag where it's like it's meant to be depicting a completely different country, and it's on the wall. It's like, if you're going to push your message, then make sure everything's correctly like presented as well. Like, you know, it's easy to like just put out the signals of saying we support this, and that, and then it's not like representative of like, you know, what we're actually talking about. But yeah, I'm just like really conflicted with it. I feel like I'm like watching it from a perspective where there are certain things that Zak Garriss's behavior I'm not supporting. And again, I don't have any stop volume Zak Garriss in any way, shape, or form. But it's like, and as you said, I think he's like back. I think it's like we're walking such a tightrope here with certain things. It's like even that pushback on that scene. Mallory Littleton for me is contradicting certain claims she's making on the pushback of the scene. Because it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like, you know, it has to have context. It has to be put in principle. Fair enough. I agree with that completely. I prefer that you've put it within context. But then you're saying like we don't want to go down a route of like, you know, maybe addressing like an idea that might provoke someone. But isn't Life is Strange built on that? Like, what theme in Life is Strange isn't built on provoking something like there's an entire fucking wall in Life is Strange 2. Do you know how much backlash Michelle and Luke and all the other teams going? They were like, Life is Strange 2 is like the most anti-Trump piece that's happened in the video game industry for the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. It couldn't be any more on the nose. But it's like, they're like, yeah, well, we own it because that's what we want to do. I'm like, I respected you more. I said that in one of my reviews. I'm like, at least you went out there and put your name on it and wore it with a badge of honor rather than saying, oh, well, we're just going to take pops at Donald Trump because of this reason. Fair enough. At least you went with it and said, oh, we actually don't like Trump and we're going to put it into the theme of this game. Fair enough. But it's like, I'm just like a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a yeah. Should we move on? Okay, so we're going to pick back up here. We're going to change a bit of direction here as well, because like basically I'm very unwell. I'm very unwell. Adam's feeling a little bit under the weather. We wanted to get this podcast out because obviously it's big news. Go and read the full piece at IGN, yeah? Because it's like it's important for you guys to go and read it, because it's like we're going to be here for like me and Adam. Like, it's even better for the fact that Adam said don't read the entire article, because as I said, we started like from the. It's too long. Go and read it on IGN. Make your thoughts about it. There's a lot of stuff in here. I think we've covered some of the main stuff. Again, Zak Garriss has refuted these claims as well, like certain claims. He's made a statement in here. Deck 9 has also made a statement. I'm not going to read out Deck 9's statement because it's massive, it's huge in here, but there is a statement from both of us, so go and refute them. Again, what I said is my opinions. I have my own perception on Zak Garriss. I'm just questioning certain other claims that are made where I said it in the previous conversation. And I said, this is unfiltered, this is my own opinion. I'm not going to follow the narrative that's just been put online. I'm just questioning certain things because it's a lot of allegations to be thrown out here. And again, it's just allegations being said at the minute, even against both Deck 9 and also everything else with it. More so, the things that have shocked me is the Nazi imagery and among many other things as well, and the upper management's treatment. But anyway.
So I do want to point out that I just copy and pasted the entire article in Google Docs just to see how many. It is 18 pages.
How many words?
Docs. What's that?
How many words?
Oh my god. Okay, let's find out. Tools. It is. I want you to guess, and I want you to give me a ballpark.
I'm going to say it's about 20,000 words.
Oh no, it's only 6,000.
Really?
Pages 18. 5,869 words.
Well, it felt like 20,000 when I was reading it. Maybe it's because I just don't read it.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam, should we go into the next last segment then? Because I think this is a big point anyway. So obviously with this as well, with all the allegations that happen in the news, it has basically been confirmed we have Deck Nine's game coming soon or being announced. So we have that, and it's probably going to be Life is Strange at this point. So like a lot of things have been revealed in here, among many other things about Telltale as well. So I'm kind of just going to the end section of this article, which is about called Life is Strange: The Life Raft, which I almost thought was a game, but it's the subheading for the article. They put, while all this was taking place, Deck 9 was being rocked in other ways. In spring 2023, the studio went through 2 rounds of job cuts, the first smaller, impacting single-digit number of individuals, and in May, Skybound Entertainment cancelled a deal with the studio to work on a sequel to The Walking Dead. Skybound declined on that.
Off podcast, me and Ad, like, I felt crazy because I was like, did I know about that? Did me and Adnan know about that they canceled The Walking Dead? And neither of us did. And then, then they talk about Wolf Among Us 2. I'm just like, what the heck? Like, did we not? But like, it was more of just like, wow, they canceled Walking Dead. And I'm like, that sucks, dude. But
it just seemed like
a lot of other thing. I'm not trying to say like, man, the worst thing about this article is that we didn't get a Walking Dead sequel. Oh, it's like no, I'm not trying to say that. Like, there's a lot worse things that it's just, damn, dude, that's wild.
Yeah. Among many other things, here's the other one, which is the big, bit of a kicker as well from what for us knows, which is with the remaining weeks of the company, Littleton recalls having to quote unquote haul her ass off, end quote, and to write more and more faster than we had in the entire project to ensure the remainder of the Life is Strange team was set up for success moving forward. Yes. So we have confirmation that a Life is Strange game is in the works at Deck 9. The second game that they're making, which is outside of True Colors and Before Song, which has been leaked now, essentially, because this is pretty much a leak confirmation. Now they are working on a game there. So there's issues with the Telltale relationship, and we're not going to go into that. That's a different thing. And there's Deck 9's response, and said to go and read that. It's in the article. The parts that we're going into here, which is that the cancellation of 2 major projects and multiple rounds of layoff have not inspired confidence internally. Among those I spoke to, there was a strong perception that Deck 9 leaders were bad deal makers who were unwilling or unable to advocate for their studio to get resources even when their deals were successful. Just this past February, Deck 9 experienced yet another round of layoffs, with management citing an inability to sign a new project after the loss of both The Wolf Among Us 2 and The Walking Dead. A total of 23 individuals were impacted, leaving Deck 9 just at half the size it was a few years ago during the height of the True Colors. Leadership took several pay cuts, but impacted staff only received 2 weeks of severance pay, regardless of their time at the studio. This leaves those remaining at Deck 9 once again reliant on Life is Strange. For now, sources say development on the current project is progressing well, despite some early struggles. There's the big key, early struggles. Yes. So, for better or worse, Deck 9 has become steward of Life is Strange, and their fates are inextricably linked. So this kind of like outlines all the stuff that we talked about with Don't Know, where I said like they are not the studio for just Deck. Like Deck 9 is walking its way for me in the same position as Telltale. Like 10 years from now, I would not be surprised if Deck 9 is bankrupt, because like they are basically putting all their eggs into one basket. They are just basically known as the Life is Strange studio. They are helming a franchise which is hemorrhaging people at the minute, and it's like there's so many factors that could come into play where it's like they have a stinker of a series entry, they can have like a stinker of the series falls off, Lost Records Bloomer Age takes off as the next Life is Strange spiritual successor. All things are happening with it. But the big news here, and the big blow for Deck 9, among many other things, and outside obviously the allegations, the other stuff that Adam said, which is important, is that they have also now their project has been confirmed as a Life is Strange game.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, like, Adam, on top of that as well, do you think it'll even reveal it this year? Because I'm kind of convinced that it'd be stupid to put out this year. Amid this.
I was gonna say amid this. This is pretty damning stuff. And here's the, you know what? I just have to say one thing about this. Like, so this is why a lot of people go independent all the time. And I know they say here, like, a Deck 9's thing, a statement, they say like, oh, we're an independently owned studio. And I'm just like, no, when we're talking like indie, this is why people just leave and they do their own thing.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why, because shitty people make shitty decisions and treat people shittily.
Yeah.
And that's that. And I want to also point out, last episode, I went on a tirade for independent artists, and not the Milky Boy, not the Milky Bar Kid, not the Milky Bar Kid, said, "Love you too, Adam," and I'm like, yeah, who doesn't love me? I'm the greatest ever to ever walk this planet. If I'm ever in Philly, I'll buy you a pint. I'm in North Dakota. But I love what he says here. And to be clear, I love the art of indie games. I'm just impressed how hard it is to make a living off of it. We should value artists more. And that's the point I'm trying to make too. Just like, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place as a developer through all of this. And I'm going to get back to your point about, do they announce it this year?
Yeah.
I am going to get back to that point. I'm stretching myself here.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, they're stuck in a rock and a hard place where it's just like, do I stay in this shitty company and make a living, or do I work for myself, or even work for somebody that has left a studio and made something new, like Night School Studios, but make it so hard to make a living? Or even to a more standing point, Chris Floyd, when he founded did he found a company or started
no
working?
He went to work for an independent company.
He worked for an independent, and then they got shut down. So it is kind of depressing that, like, you can't make a living off of it. So yeah, it just sucks, man. It really sucks for, like, artists that, like, they just want to give you, like, something good and something passionate, and yet they are stuck in this rock and hard place. So to get back to your question, I think they want to, and they do say it at the very, very. Can I just read the very last piece?
Please.
Tate says, Madeline Tate says, I worry about Madeline. Is that how you pronounce it, or is it Madeline?
Madeline. Oh, that's Mad. Let's call him Mad.
Mad Tate. I don't like the way I said that. Madeline Tate.
Do you know what? I keep thinking of Andrew Tate when you say Tate. It's just not really. It's very difficult for me.
But anyways, I worry that True Colors and Before the Storm are important to. I worry that True Colors and Before the Storm are important to the queer community, and I just worry people will think they can't play these anymore. But every good thing we got in those stories was fought for hard by female writers and queer writers, and games aren't made by one person. If you're marginalized, you have to love games so much to make them, because you put up with so much shit. And that's why I'm just like, I'm so stuck on, do they reveal Life is Strange this year amid this? Because again, like, they are just trying to make a living. They are just trying to put out the best game they possibly could. And now this comes out and tarnishes the name of Deck 9. It sucks. It should tarnish the name of the management, but not the developers that have made this Life is Strange game. It really sucks to think about that. Does me being an asshole tarnish the name of Castigarden? It should, because I'm an asshole. You heard me last week, but no, like, and that's the thing. It's just like, I want to say that, yeah, they'll reveal it this year, but should they reveal it this year? That's a different question. I don't know.
I imagine, because like we like, this is, I'm thankful Adam like flagged this up. This will probably move into our main topic for next episode, because obviously there'll be a conversation about what to expect from Deck 9's Life is Strange game now going forward, and I will probably tackle this into a meatier topic. That thing for me is, it's very hard for this to be released this year now, or even be. I would think it would be mad for them to even reveal it this year, because basically, not among the many other issues you have here, which is about the Nazi imagery, the Zak Garriss allegations, etc., it's the fact that there's a Nazi symbol in here. And there's like the studio that's prided itself on being like an LGBT plus Q representative studio. Isn't that on the surface value of it? Because, like, for example, as well, I've talked about with Izzy. I've always said, isn't it interesting the way that Izzy's portrayed in True Colors? Because you could basically cut her scenes out and then put it into a market where basically True Colors could be sold because you don't want a trans character in it.
Yeah.
And then she has her entire story told in a standalone arc of a book instead. It's like, it's so telling that you can see it. And I said this before in many episodes before. It would be interesting to play the Chinese version of True Colors and see if actually Wavelengths is what it is on the surface value, because I imagine they probably won't mention it because they have big hatred towards trans people. In like large majority of the places of the world, people are hated by trans people are hated. For me, baffling, because it's like, it's none of your business what anyone else does. I'd really like, live your life the way that you want to. But it's just baffling for me. So it's like, I think that these allegations are going to have to, like, because this doesn't come down on just Deck 9, it comes down on Square Enix as well, because Square Enix is now known as a studio which has had allegedly staff members bullying the other division from the London-based studio, and then also to play on the fact that they don't want to promote a quote-unquote gay game. And it's like, well, I'd be interested to see, because I imagine as well, like, do you think GLAD is going to accept the next Life is Strange game for a nomination?
That's wild. Yeah.
Because GLAD's going to be looking at this being like, well, obviously, clearly there's something else here that's being shown the surface value of things. Like, I don't really know about that.
In this article, they talk about how there's people who are within the studio, workers who are just bullying each other. And I'm just like, how, to quote Kanye, how sway? That's the only Kanye quote that you have.
Interesting person to choose, by the way, as well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Bro, I hate Kanye for what he said about, again, I have Jewish blood in me and I hate what he said. Do I also believe that Kanye is not mentally stable? Yes. I think he's got issues that are left unchecked. But I will say this, my Roman Empire was when he was on, what talk show was it? Was it the morning? I can't remember. But I remember he was saying this, like, how sway, how? And just like, I don't know, this. I'm tired.
The clip that always gets me for Kanye is when the one about George Bush.
There's so many clips of Kanye where I'm just like,
it's like, yeah,
dude, it lives rent free in my head, but it's also he has mental issues that have left unchecked. So yes, I do hate what he said, but I also understand that he is not correct in the head. But getting back on this, speaking of people being canceled, it sucks. It sucks thinking about this, but yeah, does GLAD take it in? I don't know. Well, but this last article from Madeline Tate saying I don't want people to tarnish Life is Strange just because what Deck 9 did. You know?
Because of the length of the podcast and stuff, we'll pick this up in the next episode. I assume we'll use it as a main topic to talk about what to expect from the Life is Strange game, because there's huge ramifications for me now to discuss it. It's just not for me easy if let's just reveal the Life is Strange game because it's easy like that. I think we need to have proper conversation about it now, because in itself, Adam, so who the fuck is going to buy this game as well? Imagine if you're a gay person and you're reading all this stuff and you're like, oh yeah, I'll buy the game from a studio that has a history with messing around with Nazi imagery, and then also allegations against other people in here, and has doesn't want to be by a publisher who doesn't want a gay game, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, I don't know.
The damage control. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's just it's a lot of damage control from Square Enix. I think out of all this article, we need to be looking at Square Enix as a company and how they handle their IPs. And you have to really think that back when Life is Strange was first created and they were looking for publishers, if we live in an alternate universe and Square Enix didn't get involved, and I don't know, it was let's say EA picked it up, just to say it, or even Ubisoft picked it up, which I don't think Ubisoft would, because then we have a lot more bottles to find around the world. But
in a watchtower, by the way.
In a watchtower. But portraying it as yes, these companies are also very greedy, but they're greedy. You have to think in an alternate universe, if they chose a different publisher to publish the Life is Strange game, because Remember Me was published by Capcom. Yeah. And what if Capcom picked up Life is Strange? Would all of this happen? Would all of this have happened? We don't know.
We don't.
Yeah.
Because when you said the hypotheticals, that's so big with it, because Life is Strange was never seen the success that it was beginning. It took off, and it was lucky for that. That's the thing with Lost Records. It might not have the same success. Brace yourself for that as well. It might sound wild, because I wish Michelle and Luke nothing but the best of success with that, but there's no guarantee on it, and they know it as well. They're gonna have to ramp up their marketing and really sell it, because it's some people are just Life is Strange fans, They might not want to be Lost Records, Bloom Rage fans. They might not care about it. So let's pick up this segment for the next episode, because as you said, it's a big piece we did there. I completely mistimed that. I thought we would like be done with it. My timing's terrible about it, but we'll pick up in the next episode, because I think we'll talk about what happens with Life is Strange going forward, because I think that is a huge question now, because I wanted to use it before there is a reveal, and I think that would be very, very deeply inappropriate to reveal something now as well. I just don't think they need to shelf that to later this year and then reveal it into early next year. But we'll come on to that for another thing. So thank you for joining us. And again, like, it's going to be hell editing this podcast, because I'm not well and Adam's not well. This will be a long one. But we're coming towards the finish line
we
now.
went into like way more technical issues than I thought we would. I'm just like, great.
I went off my entire thing about Square Enix. Square Enix ain't selling me an Alex Chen jacket anymore. I'm so sad about that. I'm gonna wear one. I'm gonna buy one off eBay and wear it, and be like, Square Enix loves me. Let's go into our attack of the day. No, comment of the day, actually. Sorry.
Attack of the day.
Yeah. Adam can't attack this one. So
no attacking today. No attacking.
So I just wanted to read out the first comment, and then I added the second one. I won't read the full second part of the comment out, but it's just funny for the end part. So this is a comment from Sunday Fundy. By the way, these names are always wild as well. Yeah. I have the shittest usernames on YouTube, and other people have wild ones. So Sunday Fundy put, great video as always. I've been a long time lurker since Life After Strange. Obi-Wan moment. Not heard that name for a long time. And I finally wanted to share some of my own thoughts. I'm very confident we'll see a Deck 9 game announced soon. Interesting call there. Most likely during Summer Games Fest. Whether that's a new Life is Strange game or a completely different IP, I'm not so sure. If we do get a new Life is Strange game, I'm curious if it's the rumored Aperture or something completely different. While I do agree that it's technically been too long for a sequel to the first one, I wouldn't doubt if Square Enix saw an opportunity, that sweet cash flow from the first Life is Strange. This comment is aging so well. It's only been like a week. I'm personally indifferent. One hand, I'd love a Max and Chloe sequel if done right, but on the other, I wouldn't mind a new story with new characters. Whatever happens this year, I'm hella excited for Lost Records. So that was for Sunday Funday, and I replied to Sunday Funday, and I was like, gave a response, and then they responded to me, and I saw the comment, got the email. I was like, I'm gonna get back to this, right? So they left me a massive response about their prediction, like everything else in between it. And I go back after the Deck 9 allegations broke, and before I could even respond, there was an edit at the bottom from a Sunday Fundy who had just put, "This aged like milk."
Can I read this? I actually haven't read the follow-up question comment. I did see this age like milk. I'm like, oh boy. The follow-up comment reads, "Thank you for responding to my comments. And Adam's the best one." Oh my god.
You weren't here during the Life After Strange days. You were an addition later. A great addition, but later.
A great addition, but just an addition. You've definitely got a dedicated fan right here. Crossing my fingers that the channel goes for a long, long time. I agree. Oh, okay. So I agree that there's most likely going to be something LIS related revealed soon. I know 100% that Deck 9 has an upcoming unannounced AAA game, which has been in the works for about 3 to 4 years or so. I say that with confidence due to LinkedIn postings I found online, mostly of which have updated recently, probably related to the layoffs. Probably. If anything were to be announced during the summer, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the game release in early 2025, close to the 10th anniversary. Another interesting find I discovered by pure coincidence that Sweet Baby Inc., yikes, had recently partnered up with Deck 9. I didn't know Sweet Baby Inc. was with Deck 9. I knew it was all the... Oh, wait, I did know that. I'm stupid. They're a narrative consulting studio. And for those who don't know, I checked with Wayback Machine on the website, and it looks like they've added Deck 9 to their clients list around summer last year. Who knows how long they've actually been working with them, though. It might not mean much, but I still enjoy finding stuff that might hint at their next game. Finally, I wanted to add that I find it a bit odd that the new Life is Strange comics are barely being marked plus heavily delayed. Yes. We got to a second issue earlier this week, but there was no build up to it. Besides the small acknowledgement on this release day, the Heatwave novel also got delayed. Yeah, I saw this part. all the way back from April to late July. That's wild. I'm so excited for the new podcast. Can't wait to share along more once the game nears release or more. Know about Lost Records. Keep up the great work. Edit this aged like milk. And it sure has. I forgot that Sweet Baby Inc. was involved in Deck 9, which explains a lot. A lot.
Yeah. We will pick things up now going forward because it gives us a lot of ammunition here to pick up on things. And thank you for the comment and thank you for the kind words as well. There's a lot to talk about, and it just has come on a day where things have not turned out as well for both of us on a personal front. But yeah, a lot to talk about, a lot to think. Let us know what you think as well. Like, and more so, if anything, let us obviously know your thoughts on the allegations, etc. But I do want to know from people, like, if you think that Life is Strange will be revealed this year, the new game. Because I think that'll be the question I pose to Adam in the next episode, which is what we'll go down. It's like, because for me, it just seems deeply deplorable to even do it now, considering this. But Square Enix is a different animal, isn't it? Adam, spread the arts before we call it out. You go first.
I will go first because I don't know if I said this before, but I did buy the Blu-ray for Avatar: The Last Airbender. I did buy the Blu-ray and I rewatched it, and I'm just like,
last time I remember you watched the live action wasn't sold, and then you were like, we should really just watch the. And you said we should just really watch the original. Yeah.
And I canceled my Netflix and all that. I canceled HBO Max, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to buy the Blu-ray. And my God, dude, I've watched this show many times, but like after watching the live performance and now going back to, bro, talking about aging like milk, this aged like wine. Like it just every single time I watch this series, I'm like, the writing is just perfect. It's just downright. Everybody has their motives. Everybody has their growth. Everybody has their time to be a character. Everybody has their purpose as a character. Toph is perfect. Like everything about this show, and like the timing of everything. It's only 3 seasons, and you can be done in a weekend. Like you can watch it in a weekend. Bro, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated series, the original, it's beyond perfection, and I won't take anything else, you know?
By the way, Adam, as well, as a millennial, you now own it as well, so no one can take it away from you. Do you know those? You have a physical copy which you can hold.
There are 2 episodes in this Blu-ray that were corrupted files. Like it glitches. There are 2 episodes, and I was like, they were very important episodes. It was the desert episode where I won't spoil it, but it's a desert episode and one of the last season episodes. And I'm like, what the heck? But 2 episodes are corrupted.
We got to that point.
Like, yeah, it's annoying. But it's not like devastating. But yeah, it's like 10 seconds of those episodes are corrupted. I'm like, oh, come on.
That's wild. I feel like everything's just gone like that.
Yeah,
like, you never had this when you were growing. Like thingy, the quality is just annoying. By the way, I watched this video where this woman was like, she's like, has anyone ever used a Blu-ray? I'm like, what planet do you live on? I'm like, do you not see all those game consoles that are built on Blu-ray discs and the fact that I think she said, like, is the quality any different? I'm like, are you for real?
Wow.
That's like watching a 1080p video or 4K video on YouTube and then watching 260p on like Twitter or X as it's called now.
So stupid. But no,
I'm not having that.
I rewatched it. I rewatched the whole series in a weekend. And yeah, no, it holds up. It holds up. It is so much better. It's perfect. Even Korra wasn't as perfect as Avatar. So yeah, I always recommend it. So spread the arts. Please rewatch the original Avatar series. So go for it.
Good shout. And I like the fact that you went and got the original man close to my heart. So mine's got 2. I got 2. So unfortunately, my main one's going to be Final Fantasy. I have 7 Rebirth, which I finished, but I don't really feel keen on giving Square Enix any kudos at the minute because it pissed me off after this recent news piece along with Deck 9. So I'm going to kind of end on the fact that I think it's one of the 10 greatest video games I've ever played. I really do think that. I said to Adam he should sell his Xbox, go and buy a PlayStation, play Final Fantasy, then resell the PlayStation, get the Xbox back. I do think it's that good. I genuinely think it's one of the best games I've ever played. So fair play to them on that. They've made an absolute unbelievable game in 2024. I never ever would have thought in 2024 someone I would say this is one of the 10 greatest games I've ever played now. I was that cynical about things, but I'm not going to give a huge amount of focus on that because Square Enix has really annoyed me about the other things as well. I've vented my frustration on Square Enix. By the way, I hope they send you the Alex jacket and not me. I'd be so pissed off. I'd never do podcast host with you again. If they started sending you things for me, that'd be like multiple malice.
I like gifties.
Anyway, the main one I'm going to recommend because I watched it briefly and it was on a documentary on Peacock from the WWE and it was on Bray Wyatt, the wrestler. So Bray Wyatt was a wrestler in the company who died last year. He was in the prime of his life and he died because he had a heart attack, which was like exacerbated because of his COVID issues. Bray Wyatt was very much loved as a figure. So if you do know Bray Wyatt is this kind of like, it's like almost like a spiritual-esque character that they made, very similar to the Undertaker meets Mankind style character. And it was really, really disheartening to see, but a very great production value. The entire thing's shot really well. Undertaker does the entire narration for it. None other than Mark Calloway himself does the entire narration. And Bray Wyatt yesterday went into the Hall of Fame because we're recording on the 6th of April. So he went into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2024. So I would recommend it if you do watch wrestling. And if you don't as well, I'd still recommend it as well because the wrestling documentaries are very good. But we will close out here. So thank you for joining us on a very long and I would say a bit of a horrible episode for the topics we were talking about. I think like no matter how you feel about it and the way that we interpret things, it's really shitty. And especially for someone like me, I know a lot of those people at that studio. They've always been very kind to me. They've been always great about things. It's just shit to see it. And this is how I'd feel if it happened to another studio as well. Obviously, you can probably know what that studio is considering we talk about them all the time. But it's like the allegations seem to be rocking the video game industry at the minute. It's not a very good look. I feel sorry for a lot of people. I hope things get cleared up, and especially at Deck Nine's upper management as well. I hope people hold Square Enix accountable more on the Life is Strange series because they are, for me, crippling this series. I really do think that they are crippling this series and going to run it into the ground. But anyway, in the comments, leave us your thoughts. Let us know what you think. We'll read out in the next episode. Obviously, we'll come back to this topic in the next episode to talk about it. A lot more to be said here. But if you are new here, as always, please do consider dropping a subscribe in the video, like with your friends, share. Help support the channel more than anything else. It's really important for me that. And StrangeCast is available on all podcast services. So we're available on Spotify, the video version, etc. We're all available on there. So do check us out on there. So thank you for joining us on that. Lost Records Journal will be back later this month as well. So do stay tuned for that. That will be an episode that will be coming out this month on that. So that will be hopefully a lot more kind of like, civilized, if anything. But we'll be back later on for a StrangeCast episode later this month. Let us know your thoughts. You might get attacked by Adam on the next episode. So until then, take care, guys. See you later. Bye.
Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.